Hello and welcome to Lovin Daily, the lockdown edition. I'm your host, Christian Perugin, and that is Tim Diakono. Tim, can you hear me?
Hearing you loud and clear, Chris.
Sweet. Okay, so today is going to be a bit of a different edition to normal. As we said, this is us from our homes, but still delivering Lovin Daily as we've done every day since before the crisis as well. So the top stories for today, we've got a brand new business package by Robert Abela. Prime Minister Robert Abela has proposed new measures to help businesses. We also have a hospital being offered to the government to be used as a coronavirus hospital. And we've got some health updates as well. Easter has been cancelled, or the Holy Week at least celebrations have been cancelled. We've got a new food bank in Imjar to help people who are struggling with the COVID crisis. And we also have residents being quite annoyed about the situation where they're in quarantine, but there's also construction going on around them. So Tim, let's start with the first story. We've got the Prime Minister's new package announced yesterday. Tell us a bit about it.
So, yes, Chris. So after quite a lot of criticism from workers and from businesses alike, the Prime Minister announced a new package to help businesses who are really struggling to make ends meet as a result of this crisis. And what this is going to do is the government is going to give €800 to every worker whose business has been forced to close down as a result of this crisis. And it's expected to impact around 60,000 people. So the government will pay them €800, which it's worth noting is higher than the minimum wage, slightly higher. And, if they earn more than that, then employers will be required to make up the difference. So it's good news for people who work in the most impacted industries, for example, tourism, which has been forced to go to completely. Yeah, exactly. So at least these workers have their minds at rest that they will be paid at least until this crisis is over. The problem is
actually said that people on minimum wage will get more than they were getting before, right?
Yes, as well. Hopefully, maybe this could be the start of some universal basic income ideal. It's also an admission by the government that the minimum wage is way too low.
Way too low. And there are some sectors that haven't benefited, right? So I think it's worth saying that this business package has been supported by many social partners, the Chamber of Commerce, MHRA, and a lot of other people. But there are a number of professional services that haven't been included, right? So architects, lawyers, real estate agents as well are quite annoyed about the situation because they're facing complete closure, but they're not part of these measures. Is that correct?
Yes. So this is the issue with it, right? So 60,000 workers are impacted, but there's a huge chunk, which some are saying is 100,000 workers who won't be impacted. Now, obviously, some workers felt the pinch more than others. The people whose businesses had to close down to a point where if you actually go to work, you'll be breaking the law. Those are the ones who were impacted the most. But this had significant ripple effects throughout the entire economy. So everyone has been impacted by it negatively in some way or another. And for those 100,000 or so estimated workers, and something has been done. It's so minimal that it's almost nothing. However, this is the third financial aid package that the government has launched since the coronavirus crisis started, and they are getting progressively stronger. This was by far the strongest in terms of
direct. So you expect that there will be more in the coming days and weeks?
I definitely wouldn't rule it out. So I can't imagine that the government will allow, huge, we're talking about 100,000 people. I can't imagine that it will, allow 100,000 people to suddenly, become unemployed.
A little interesting thing that happened yesterday, Lovin Daily asked the Prime Minister whether the civil service should be removing any of their salaries or sort of just as a symbolic gesture, lowering their salaries. And Robert Abela said no, he's not going to impose that on anyone, but he did agree to forfeit a month's salary, which and now that has been taken on by both the economy minister Silvio Scembri and the tourism minister Giulia Farrugia Portelli. So a bit of pressure on the ministers and presumably other very highly paid civil servants to do some sort of symbolic gesture
Yeah.
in solidarity, I guess, with the many workers and businesses that have been forced out of work.
I mean, at the end of the day, them forfeiting a month's salary isn't going to do much to the public office, but it is a sign of solidarity, right? So we have somebody in the civil services who's earning and is still earning something like €100,000 a year. I mean, it's almost disgusting at this stage, right, for them to continue to accept that money while workers are literally facing unemployment. So it is a sign of solidarity.
And there was a little dig by the prime minister at the Nationalist Party, right, when a Net News journalist was asking, about the workers that have been excluded. The prime minister basically said, the Nationalist Party owes 4 million in electricity bills, so we'll start listening to you when you sort that out. What do you think? That was a bit too harsh for?
It was a bit out of place, right? That a comment like that. I mean, in I get he must have been a bit frustrated to hear someone from the Nationalist Party asking about utility bills. But at the end of the day, it's you can't call for national unity and then just act partisan yourself. It doesn't work that way. It takes two to tango.
So let's move on to the next story. Frank Portelli, the owner of the former St. Philip's Hospital, is offering his hospital to the government to provide beds and space for the coronavirus patients. I think this is interesting as well because the government, I believe yesterday or the day before, announced that it's working on a on a hospital made of prefabricated rooms that will take 8 weeks to build and will be built around the Mater Dei Hospital environment. What do you think? Does it make more sense to use St. Philip's Hospital? Is this money-making suggestion by Frank Portelli, you reckon?
Well, he's saying it's not. He's saying I'm going to offer, my former hospital, and the only thing the government will have to pay for is the cost of refurbishment. So basically, the government will pay Frank Portelli to refurbish the hospital, and then he will give it out to the government free of charge to be used for COVID patients. It's worth noting that, with regards to the prefabricated hospital, that Robert Abela said yesterday that he hopes it won't even have to be used. So it could very well be that the number of COVID, and hopefully it is the case, that the number of COVID patients in Malta never rises to a point where this hospital will need to be used. But that it's better to be safe than sorry, and that it's being built to make sure we definitely do have enough space. Now, the thing is that there's literally a ready-built hospital in St. Philip's. So, okay, you have to refurbish it, but it's there. I'm sure it's more comfortable. It will be more comfortable than a prefabricated hospital, and it has more beds. So it says something like 40 more. St. Philip's will have around 40 more beds, according to Frank Portelli.
So we'll see how the health ministry and the government responds to that suggestion. I believe there was a point about having the prefabricated hospital built as closely as possible to Mater Dei in terms of to facilitate things for the staff. So maybe that would be one of the reasons the government shoots down this idea. But on that note, I think it's important to give a bit of a health update on the situation, right? So yesterday there were 3 patients who tested positive for COVID. We shouldn't say only 3, right? We shouldn't be too complacent. We shouldn't let this make us complacent about all the measures being taken. People staying home, please do stay home. We're setting the example now from today as well, that we're not even going into the studio for Lovin Daily, so that's really important. But Tim, any other relevant points in terms of health from yesterday?
Yeah, so 3 new patients were confirmed. Well, Obviously, it is better than the 17 new cases that were confirmed the previous 2 days. So it doesn't hurt to feel a little bit positive about it. However, trends aren't set overnight; they take a while to set, and the reality is that Malta's numbers are still so low that we're not exactly sure how the trend is. So yeah, of course, it's great that not too many people felt sick yesterday, but definitely this is no room for complacency at all, and everyone should still follow the advice of the health authorities.
And so we've got 110 patients in total.
We have something like 110 patients, and
Some
it's
of them
worth
are
noting that
recovered, some of them are recovering at home at this point.
the vast majority of them are recovering at home. So that's it's worth noting. Only one has so far has so far been in a critical state. Again, no room for complacency, but just no room for excess panic either.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the next story. Easter and the Holy Week celebrations have effectively been cancelled. Festi, and this is going to hurt many Maltese people who live for the festa. Those have also been postponed until further notice. And also yesterday we had the Olympics being cancelled. And just that following up from the Eurovision being cancelled. So it's like every single event effectively is being cancelled for the next few months. Even Ryanair yesterday said that they don't expect to do any flights in April and May. So we still don't have a very good idea of how long this is going to take. But I think the idea of it being at least a couple of months now is pretty certain. And we're going to live in this weird reality, where we can barely meet each other, where we can barely have mass gatherings and fly or travel at all. I don't know if there's anything else to add to that, Tim.
Obviously, no one knows how long the situation will last for. At the end of the day, it can't last for too long before the serious economic repercussions of the restrictions will reach a stage where they are potentially even worse than the virus itself. But obviously, at the moment, it's better to be safe than sorry. And yes, I mean, after the Olympics was cancelled, it was only a matter of time before events like Good Friday and even the Festi. Unfortunately,
Even the Pope's visit, right? That was something else.
even,
Yeah.
and even the Pope's visit was in May. So basically, every activity that involves a gathering of people is being postponed until further notice. And hopefully, the emphasis on that last part, right? Until further notice. So hopefully, they will still happen.
So we had as well a sweet story yesterday about something happening in Mjar, a food bank being set up by the parish church and the local councils, who are urging other local councils to join and do this in their community, effectively to help people who have been really badly hit by the coronavirus. Let's not forget that there are single mothers and people who are who struggle to make ends meet on a daily basis, that now without their job, without a bit of income, will probably find it really difficult to even just put food at the table. So this food bank in Mjar, can you tell us anything about it, that Tim?
So yes, the Njal local council and parish have set up this food bank, and they're encouraging food stores and supermarkets which are some of the businesses who are actually doing well in this crisis to donate some excess food items to this cause. And they're also asking the public to donate some items which in boxes that can be found at some shops and supermarkets. So obviously it's really sad that it's only been a few weeks and the food banks already being set up, but we can't ignore this reality either.
Yeah. And our last story from today, I'm sure a lot of people watching will have some strong reactions to that, and please do share your comments below. With this new setup, we can actually see the comments coming in, so thanks for everyone telling us to speak Maltese. So we're yesterday there was also a story about St. Julian's resident who just had enough of being in quarantine and having to listen to constant construction, digging and excavation and noises, etc. I think everyone who lives in practically any part of Malta at this point faces that, right? And it is quite frustrating. I mean, I just imagine, trying to work from home, trying to concentrate a little bit, and you've got this constant, digging and stuff. Construction has not been banned as part of this ongoing lockdown, right, Tim?
No, it hasn't, which has been a little bit controversial because it does involve people gathering together, and it's not always essential, right? A project can be delayed by a few weeks. I mean, then again, there's also the dangers as well. If you could just leave a construction site unattended to, and what happens what if something happens? Like we've seen several accidents, right? So we can't, just say ban everything. It needs a bit of a wider discussion than this. But obviously, the residents have a right to be completely frustrated. So besides the challenges of remote working, the uncertainty surrounding the entire situation, and to top it all off, you have construction works, going outside and distracting you.
Yeah. So that's it, guys. Today the weather is thankfully quite shitty. Thankfully, because at least it doesn't feel so silly being at home, right? When when the weather was really beautiful and the sunshine was out, it was a little bit harder to stay home. But I guess now we've got no excuse. So as we said, please. Don't be complacent. Things are, developing every day. Quick roundup of the stories we discussed today. There was the business stimulus package that is being proposed by the Prime Minister. We'll be analysing that also on another show that we'll be launching later this morning, actually, probably at about 11:30. So stay tuned for that. We'll start to get some expert analysis as well on the business package. And anyway, the other stories, we've got the ticker over here that you can follow as well. Thank you very much for following. This has been Tim Diacono and myself, Christian Perugin. We'll be back every day through this, through Lovin Daily, the lockdown edition. So thank you very much. Have a day of loving.
And stay at home.
And stay at home.